Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome to the Mana Source Tournament Report. This weekend we had a couple big events. There was a Grand Prix in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, and on the SCG side of things there was an Open in Oakland, California. We're here with the top 8 decks from both of those tournaments. So we have some good news. It looks like we've finally gotten over the Blue Devotion hump. Granted, there were still 3 Blue Devotion decks in the top 8s this weekend, but that's far less than we've been seeing, and those were all in the Star City Open. It was Control that took over this weekend, winning both tournaments and taking second in the Grand Prix. We also had a couple new aggressive variations, so let's dive in and take a look. First place went to Marlon Gutierrez, running the same white-black Control list that took 12th in the Grand Prix last weekend, with minor sideboard changes. It was an interesting choice, but it certainly paid off. It just goes to show how powerful some of the Black Devotion tech is even outside of that build. Recall that Desecration Demon and Pack Rat are both 4-ofs in this list. The other Control deck that we saw in force was Blue-White Control. Joe Lassett used it to win the SCG Open, and William Jensen took it to 2nd place in the Grand Prix. It also took 6th and 7th in the Grand Prix. The higher placing decks had 2 things in common: Elixir of Immortality and no creatures, as opposed to the other 2 which each ran a single Aetherling. Elixir of Immortality serves a couple purposes here. For one, it reduces the chance of losing to self-mill by Sphinx's Revelation. It also means that if Elspeth, the only win condition, gets discarded or destroyed, it's not game over. Basically, the Control deck can win even more attrition matchups than it already could. For the record, the other Blue-White Control decks were basically the kind of decks we've seen before. Second place in the SCG Open went to Red-White Devotion, played by Rob Mickness. There's not much here we haven't seen before. Fanatic of Mogis and Purphoros give plenty of value to red every creatures like Ash Zealot and Boros Reckoner. And if all else fails, Stormbreath Dragon provides a big finish. Third in the Grand Prix, we saw a different take on Red Devotion. This deck splashes green for Dami Raid rather than white for Chain to the Rocks. The rest of the deck is similar to the white build, with the creature base being exactly the same. The additional card advantage provided by both Chandra and Domri helped the deck keep up with the card advantage heavy Control decks populating the Grand Prix field. 4th place in the Grand Prix went to another deck following the theme of taking an existing deck and swapping out a color. This one was a white aggro deck, but with black as its splash color instead of red. Zathrid Necromancer and Orzhov Charm joined the white weenie list, bringing some added tenacity even if some creatures die. Orzhov Charm also adds options for spot removal that aren't there in the red build. After a brief absence, Black Devotion is back, taking 5th in the Grand Prix and 8th in the Star City Games Open. Both the decks ran 17 creatures, opting for the full set of Pack Rat. Both decks were essentially what we've come to expect from Black Devotion, with sets of Underworld Connections and Thoughtseize backed up by a wide variety of spot removal. 8th place in the Grand Prix was a particularly interesting deck, Boros Burn. As the name implies, the deck was mostly red, but white let it run Boros Charm and Chain to the Rocks. Chandra's Phoenix and Young Pyromancer were the only creatures in the deck, giving the burn spell some extra mileage. The rest was all burn, of which there's no shortage in Standard: Lightning Strike, Magma Jet, Shock, Skullcrack. Chandra Pyromancer was evidently the only card advantage the deck needed, as even with that, the deck still made the top 8. Needless to say, Blue Devotion is still present, though this time it only took 3 top 8 places, 3rd, 4th, and 6th in the SCG Open. In all honesty, there's not much to see here, but that's to be expected after weeks of mono blue dominance. The only difference among the main decks was that the 4th place deck swapped out one of 2 Jaces for a 3rd Biden. Still the same deck, running the same creatures, and while it's not as omnipresent as it has been, it's still there. 5th and 7th in the SCG Open went to 2 decks that consistently make a strong showing in small numbers. 5th was Green-Black Aggro, the deck that finally tapped into powerful Golgari creatures like Lotlith Troll, Dregmangler, and Viral's the Scar-Striped. The list reads like a mid-range deck with the ratios reversed. Instead of a few creatures and a lot of removal, we had a hefty set of creatures and a few sparse removal spells like Abrupt Decay and Putrefy. And of course, Thoughtseize, because why not use Thoughtseize since it's right there? And 7th was White-Red Aggro, still running the Boros Charm-backed White Weenie plan. Imposing Sovereign has stepped up to a full 4-of in this list. Beyond that, not much has changed here. What can we say? White 1-drops are just in a really solid place right now. That's about it for this weekend's top 8s. Finally, the Mono Blue Behemoth has fallen. While Blue Devotion is still around, it's good to see it can share the spotlight with other colors of Devotion and non-Devotion based decks. and Control finally makes a comeback. We were wondering where all the blue-white players went. No, but seriously though, blue-white players, stay strong, because I believe in you. Next weekend, the Grand Prix misses a week, but we have a Star City Open and an Invitational, both in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be here next week with those top 8s. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.